I have a theory, and my theory is that everybody, although I guess I can only really talk for women, but I guess it could be men as well. I believe everybody at some point in their midlife years, however you define that, at some point they reach a turning point. I call it turning point because I feel like it's like a point in the road of their life where they take a bit of time to take stock, and they have a little bit of a look into the future, and they see their future in a different way. It's like midlife gives us a bit of time to reflect on where we're at in life, and I do believe that everybody reaches this turning point. I don't think everybody acts on the turning point, but it's like we take a moment to look forward and see what's to come. At the same time, we look back and reflect on what's been so far. And I think sometimes we get a sense of our own mortality, whereby we look ahead and realise that potentially we've got less time in front of us than we've had behind us. And it makes us stop and question, are we where we want to be in life? Are we doing the things that we want to be doing? And I think there are three things that happen here. One is you look and you think, actually, do you know what? I love what I'm doing. I want to do this for the rest of my life, and I don't want anything to change. And I think that's probably quite a small minority of people, but they do nothing, that's fine. Their life is exactly as they want it to be. I think there are another group who look and they realise that they don't like what the future holds, but they don't do anything about it. Whether that's because of fear of the unknown, whether it's because they just feel like, they can't do anything else, or they've left it too late, or they're just resigned to the fact that life is life and that's just the way it is. But then I think there's a third bracket of people who look forward and realise that their time is now, that there can be a lot that the future offers them, and they don't have to remain stuck in a life that isn't fulfilling them. I definitely feel like I was one of these people. So my turning point, I think, came in my early 50s. I think it probably kicked off when I first turned 50. Gosh, it's very hot in here with the sun coming in. When I first turned 50, I think I had a bit of an awakening, and I reached a bit of a turning point. It was more about my physical being. It was more about, I don't want to look the way I do as I get older. So I went on a bit of a fitness kick and lost a shed load of weight and really got my fitness in a better place. But actually it was more a couple of years later when it became more about my life as a whole, not just the external sort of extrinsic things. It was more about an internal need. It was, what do I want to do with my life going forward? I'd always put my career on the back burner for my husband, which I was more than happy about. That was the way, that was a choice I made. But I definitely didn't feel like I'd hit my potential, or like I was doing something that really felt fulfilling. So my turning point came when I left my work, my long-term job when I was 52, to go it alone in business. And I think there are a few things that I guess I learned from doing that. One is, you're never too old to make the leap. I think it's really important, or at least it was for me, to have good support. My husband Mark was, I wouldn't say he was, he wasn't over the moon that I was giving up my career and that I was giving up the regularity of our salary, of my salary, but he was really supportive, and he gave me the space to allow me to be able to take that leap of faith, leave the career and start something new. So I think it's having a good support system in place. I think it's also, for me, it was realising that financially, my goals in life were how can I put this? giving up my salary for a short-term period to try something new was more important than having excess money, disposable income for cars and clothes and fancy spa days and things. I was willing to take a back step there for a while to see if I could find a life that felt more fulfilling. And it wasn't, I'm not saying any of this was an easy decision, although in some ways it was a simple decision. I knew that was what I wanted to do. My gut was very strongly saying, it's your time, you need to make a change. But was it easy? Probably not. I think there was lots of things that I was scared about. There were lots of self-doubts in there. There were obviously, can we afford this? It's amazing actually when you get very serious about changing your financial situation, you start to get very serious about what you really need and what you can let go of. Also, when I gave up work and I looked at my outgoings, there were so many things that I didn't need to pay for anymore. It's amazing how much money you get through going out to work. So I had obviously my commuting costs, fuel costs, but it was also, going for lunch with work colleagues, buying coffees throughout the day, money for leaving presents. I was a member of, I worked for the Royal Air Force, and I was a member of one of the messes, so I was paying a monthly mess charge, and there were lots and lots of outgoings that once I'd finished work suddenly disappeared. So in actual fact, the money that I needed was much, much less. I didn't need to be buying as many clothes for work because I wasn't going out, out of the house as much. So actually the amount of money I needed came down. That was a big surprise, if I'm honest. And of course, when I wasn't earning as much in the early days of my business, I wasn't paying tax, for example. I wasn't earning enough to pay tax. So there was lots of little things that, made life easier in making that transition. I think the biggest thing for me was though the self-belief, not so much that I didn't have self-doubt. I think like most people, I live with self-doubt all of the time, and I think many people do. But the self-belief, the belief that everything would be okay and that whatever happened, it would be okay. Now, I gave myself and I gave my husband a bit of a kind of get out clause. I said, I would like to give this a go. And if I haven't matched my salary within 12 months, I'll go back and look for another job. And that was the kind of the stepping stone I gave myself. As it happened, I didn't match my salary in the first year. I got close, but I didn't do it. But I'd had enough proof and enough confidence that I could do it by that point. I also took a Saturday job. I must have been the oldest Saturday girl ever, just doing house viewings for a local estate agent. And that just gave me a little bit of a financial buffer. It wasn't much, but it kept my confidence up that if I did need to go and get another job, even at the age of 52, I could do it. So there were definitely, what am I trying to say here? There were definitely sort of things that I could do to make that transition easier. I think looking back, if I was going to take that leap again, I'd have probably not jumped ship quite so quickly. What I would have more than likely done was plan a year ahead and built up a financial buffer through savings while I was earning a salary, so that I had a little bit less of a financial dip when I did give up my job. As it happened, we were in a fortunate position, and my husband was able to support me while things picked up in the business. But with hindsight, if I was going to do this again, if somebody was asking me for my best bit of advice, it would be, don't take that knee-jerk reaction like I did and just say, right, I'm going. I would be a little bit more organised and give myself a bit more time to build up that financial buffer. And I guess the reason I'm jumping on here and sort of making this very rough video is just to say, if you've reached that turning point and you're contemplating making the leap out of employment to doing something yourself, and it might not just be out of employment into self-employment, it might be into retirement, or it might be into a job that's in a completely different field to yours. I would say you really want to listen very strongly to your intuition and think, what am I really feeling in all of this? And if it's just purely fear that's stopping you, try and ask yourself, what is the fear? Is it the fear of, can I cope financially without my salary? And then maybe crunch a few numbers, but bear in mind that you probably don't need as much as you think you do. Is it, am I too old for this? Well, if that's the question, have a look around, do some research, see who else has made the leap at an older age, who else has made a success of things later in life. Because actually my belief is we're never too old, and if we think we are, it's just purely negative self-talk. There's so much evidence of people coming to a second career or starting a business in later life and having huge success. The other thing is, maybe it's a fear of, a big one I hear is, I'm not sure I can learn new things. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. It might take a bit longer for things to sink in, and there will be a learning curve, but blimey, there's nothing likely to keep us feeling young more than working the old grey cells. So I definitely don't see that as a reason. I would just say do it. And the other thing I think is useful is to think, if it does go wrong, will I be able to cope? Will I be able to, recover from that? And the answer is almost without fail, yes. I'm not suggesting that you recklessly, sell your house, invest all your savings and leave yourself very, very vulnerable. But, most of the time that's not going to happen. You can put measures in place to make sure that, you've got a bit of a fallback if it doesn't work out. I think you've got to be realistic in as much as, if it is starting a new business, it's going to take a while for things to pick up, but you can definitely do this. So I'd love to let me know in the comments, have you reached that turning point? If you have, did you take the jump? Did you take the leap? Are you still sitting on the fence wondering whether you should or not? Or, is it there? Is it just too terrifying for you? I would love to know, because I think it fascinates me, and I genuinely think everybody reaches this turning point. Or maybe you'd never thought about it, and now, having listened to this, you might reflect and think, oh yeah, maybe I had a turning point and I didn't listen to it. I'm fascinated. So let me know in the comments where you're at, and give me a like or a thumbs up on this video if you found it helpful or insightful in any way. And if you fancy following me along for other videos, hit the subscribe button and let's get to know each other better. So yeah, that's it from me. Talk to you soon.